The Tigers are reportedly interested in Ha-Seong Kim. We'll talk about that and some other rumors heading into winter meetings all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday. So, got a few rumors to talk about. Also have a former Tiger signing with a different team. Ryan Vilade will not be back in the Tigers organization. We'll touch on that a little bit, and then we'll kind of transition that into just starting to prepare for winter meetings. But the majority of today's show is going to be about Ha-Seong Kim and the prospect and potential of the Tigers signing him. Evan Petzold of the Freep reported that the Tigers do have interest in Ha-Seong Kim. That makes all the sense in the world. We've been talking about Kim on this show since probably the season started, or was still going on, rather, not started. I don't know if we were that far ahead of it, but we've been talking about Kim on this show easily since October. And I really like his profile, and I think it makes a lot of sense that the Tigers are interested. So we'll talk about him. And then we're also going to talk about Hyeseong Kim, who is a KBO player currently and is going to be a free agent starting on Thursday morning. As you listen to this, we'll talk about him being posted by, I believe he plays for the Heroes, and just talking about his market, if the Tigers have any interest in him, and in his player profile as well. All right, so let's start off with Ha-Seong Kim. Like I said, Evan Petzold of the Freep reported that the Tigers do have interest in Ha-Seong Kim. I am sure that him and Mark Gorosh, who are two great people that do great work over at the Days of Roar podcast, have discussed this and talked about it as well. I'm sure Evans wrote articles about it. Go check out, go support Evan. He rocks. And always good to support our beat writers here. So Evan reports it, and I just really do think it makes all the sense in the world. Like it really does. Also, Christian Crespo, who is a writer for Just Baseball, which is a fantastic up-and-coming baseball website. I don't even know if it's fair to say up-and-coming anymore. Maybe like last year they were up-and-coming. They're pretty big now. And he did some free agent predictions and also said that Ha-Seong Kim made a lot of sense for your Detroit Tigers and predicted that that is where he would end up. So let's start with the profile, and then we'll get into, how much money is he going to get? He's injured, which is a huge factor in this, where he's going to play on the field. Does this affect Javi Baez? All of the questions that I had when I first saw this report and when I first started talking about Ha-Seong Kim to Detroit, back 2 or 3 months ago. So the profile is really kind of scarily what the Tigers look for in players. The thing that jumps off the page at you immediately on the offensive side of the ball is that his discipline and his approach at the plate are elite. I don't mean just good. I don't mean just great. I don't mean, all-star caliber. I mean legitimately elite. This guy was in the 98th percentile in chase rate and the 96th percentile in walk rate. That means only 4% of qualified hitters in the entire sport had a higher walk rate than Ha-Seong Kim in 2024. It was 12.3%. He also pairs that with a borderline elite strikeout and swing and miss rates as well. His whiff rate, 92nd percentile. Only swings and misses 16% of the time. Top 8% in the league. His K rate was 16.4%. That's 81st percentile. So top 20, top 19 exactly. For those who, may struggle with math, like myself. So top 20% in baseball and fewest amount of strikeouts. That is exactly what the Tigers want all of their hitters to emulate. Now, this is not a perfect profile either, right? Even with having these elite walk numbers and these really, really good strikeout numbers, he had an OPS of 700 and a batting average of 233 in 2024. So a lot of weak contact. His barrel rate, very low. His hard hit rate, very low. Average exit velocity, bottom quarter of the league. Expected slugging percentage, bottom 17% of the league. He does not hit the ball very hard. A lot of weak contact, but the ball is in play constantly, and he draws a ton of walks. His career numbers up to this point, which is, I believe, parts of 4 seasons now, 242 average, 326 on base percentage, and a 380 slug. So it's reflected there as well. I don't think in a full season he's actually ever had a slugging percentage over 400, which is kind of like the base mark, the bottom line of like, okay, maybe you have some decent pop in the bat. Now, that being said, 11 home runs in 2024, 11 home runs in 2022, 17 home runs in 2023. Had a lot more plate appearances in 2023 as well, which certainly helps a little bit. But that slugging percentage was just a hair under 400 in 2023, 398. Easily the best year of his major league career. So if you can get a guy that walks this much, hits around 240, 250, his expected batting average this year was 245, his actual was 233, and his career is 242. So if you can be around that 240 to 250 range in the batting average department, have an elite walk rate, not expand the zone, a borderline elite strikeout rate, and hit 10 to 15 home runs, I think you'll take that approach with everything else that he provides a baseball team. And that is where a lot of his value comes through, because I'm not afraid to admit or point out the fact that these offensive numbers in a vacuum are not anything special. This was an around, if not just below league average hitter in the eyes of OPS this year. 2023, it was 750. That's a little bit better. But it's everything else that really drives a lot of his value. We'll start off with on the base paths. His base running value this year was in the top 30% in the league. His sprint speed was 76th percentile. So he's pretty fast, and that is reflected in his base stealing. 78 bases stolen in 4 seasons, had 38 steals in 2023 and 22 steals this year in 2024. That has led him to, when you look at his WAR, his wins above replacement year by year, you have 0.4 in year 1. Okay, adjustment to the major league pitching, only hit a little bit over 200. 2022 through this season, 3.6 F4, 4.2 F4, and 2.6 F4 this past season. Where does the rest of that value come from? Him being an incredible defender. And we will talk about that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just visit the FanDuel Sportsbook app, and it'll give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. That's FanDuel.com to join today. Now, and you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow with our winter meetings preview, baby. Winter meetings start Sunday. They go through Thursday. I cannot wait. This is always one of my favorite weeks of the entire year. Now, honestly, since COVID, winter meetings have been fairly quiet. I remember when I was in high school, that was where like 80% of moves happened. The offseason has been stretched out a lot more. So we will see what happens, but it is never short of moves and rumors, and they're just swirling daily. I'm so glad that we're not going to 3 episodes a week until after winter meetings, because we're literally just going to take every episode next week and just talk about all the news that's coming out of winter meetings every day. So it'll be super fun, and we'll preview that week, talk about the biggest storylines heading into them on tomorrow on Friday's show. Today, though, we are talking about Ha-Seong Kim. We talked about the offense. We talked about the base running. The defense is what is remaining, and he is an incredible defender. This past year was in the 85th percentile in outs above average. Also has a plus arm. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. However, he's a plus defender everywhere he played. He was a plus seven OAA at second base in 2023, plus 2 at third base, and a plus 4 at shortstop in 2024, where that is the only position he played in 2024. So you're talking about a guy that can play all 3 non-first base infield positions and can play them very well. For those who are more defensive run saved inclined, I just think both matter. I don't think it's like a one or the other. I think one is range and one is like glove work. I really don't think it's that complicated, but some people prefer one over the other. His DRS at second base in 2023 was plus 10. Plus 3 at third base, and plus 2 this past season at shortstop. So again, you're talking about a big time plus defender, and that is why with an OPS that's right around league average, he is putting up 3.5 to even 4.5 win seasons, which is like all-star caliber. That's a phenomenal year. This past year, the worst year of his career outside of his rookie season, obviously, where he struggled offensively, down to, again, 2.6 WAR. I think really one of the biggest things here that we'll talk about in a second is he just played the fewest amount of games. He played 120 games this season. The past 2 years before that, 150 and 152. So I think just taking 150 fewer plate appearances will lower that a little bit. But also, as we talked about earlier, the offense took a little bit of a step back this past season. I'm not really too worried about that. Like, I think his profile is his profile. He's 29 years old. Like, I don't think like age is catching up to him. He's still on the right side of 30, at least for the time being. If you sign him to a multi-year deal, then obviously you deal with that as the years go on. But most of his value is going to be through walks and putting the ball in play and low slugging percentages with the occasional home run. I don't think that his offensive numbers are going to change too dramatically going forward, which makes him relatively safe. It's a low ceiling, high floor type of offensive profile. He's never going to be an incredible elite caliber hitter, but he's going to be very valuable with everything else he brings. And he's never going to be a terrible hitter because of the walks and the approach and the inability to strike out very often. Now, the big catch with him is that he tore his labrum in his throwing shoulder last season, and is why he missed 40 games. He had surgery to repair it. And the word on the street is that he will not be ready for opening day. So that obviously changes the perspective and the outlook on Kim dramatically in the eyes of other organizations and this free agency period, right? If he's fully healthy at 29 years old and with how, again, much of a high floor type of player he is, I think you're talking about a guy that's kind of a slam dunk for 3 or 4 years and anywhere from, 12 to maybe even up to 15 AAV. Now, I think that there's 2 different lines of thought here. There is the salary projections that we have seen throughout different publications, most of them around $60 million between 4 and 5 years, depending on where you look. I think that that's kind of in the realm that I was thinking as well. But now there's also a rumor going around and kind of a line of thought that he might just want a 1-year prove it deal to prove that the injury is not a big deal. He can ball out and then become a free agent next year and still only be 30 years old and then get the longer term deal with a little bit more guarantee because there's more confidence from the front offices that are offering him the money. So that'll be something to keep an eye out for. I'll tell you what, I have made this very well known over the last 2 months. Anytime Kim is brought up, I think someone in our last mailbag asked about Ha-Seong Kim, or we talked about him for one reason or another. I'm a huge fan of him. I love watching him play. I think he's absolutely electric on the field as well. He's been an absolute blast to watch in San Diego. I would be all for this. I don't care if it's a 1-year prove it deal. I am confident enough to give him 3 or 4 years. I don't even care about the injury. And I understand that there's a little bit of concern there with arm strength. And we'll talk about his fit within the Tigers here in a second. If he's not going to play shortstop because you have that quote unquote covered, then he's going to play third base. And obviously you want someone with an arm to play either of the positions on the left side of the infield. So I understand the hesitation with that. And if you're a little bit more skeptical about a serious injury like that, then let's just sign him to a 1-year deal. And I'm fine with that too. But I love the profile so much that I really wouldn't be afraid unless one of the team doctors is like, hey, no, this thing is ruined. Don't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Then I wouldn't mind giving him 3 or 4 years anyway. Obviously, the fit is the big conversation. I think you would sign him to play third base, even though he is a plus defender at shortstop. I think it also gives you the flexibility to play shortstop. And that doesn't mean that he's going to come in and immediately they're just going to cut Javi and that's going to be the end of it. Because I know that that's where people's heads are going to go immediately when you talk about signing him. But I think if you sign him to a multi-year deal, AKA the remainder of Javi's contract, you sign him for another 2 or 3 years, right? Just kind of fill out the rest of the remaining Javi Baez experience. Then it does objectively give you a little bit more flexibility of, okay, maybe we can work out a buyout now. We have a sound option. We have Kim. We have Sweeney. We can maybe make that work a little bit. Now, I think the most likely scenario, if they were to sign Kim, would for him to just be the third baseman and the Javi and Sweeney platoon play short. But Javi's still under contract for 3 more years. You can do that year one. And if Javi still has an OPS in the 400s throughout most of the season this upcoming year, then you can buy him out, and then Kim can move to short, and you can bring in somebody else to play third. You can see if Trey Sweeney can play third. This for a team that has stressed how important flexibility is and positional versatility and the flexibility for AJ to play anybody wherever he wants. This makes a ton of sense. And while it's not the big bat that everybody is really hoping for, he did hit lefties pretty darn well. And that is what we're looking for. This is a righty that you would add to the lineup, and he hit well above league average against righties. And honestly, in 2023, crushed righties. OPS well into the 800s against right-handed pitching 2 seasons ago. So I really think this fit rocks. And this is not me saying that, for those who want a big power hitter, that this is that. He is obviously not the big thumper, home run hitting power threat that you want to obtain this offseason. But believe it or not, you can get more than one person in an offseason. And I would love for the front office to realize that. And I'm hoping that they do. But I really do think that this fit just makes all the sense in the world. Okay, let's talk about another Kim, no relation, Hyeseong Kim, who was posted by the Heroes in the KBO and will be a free agent today, as you were listening to this, we'll talk about his potential market, kind of his play style, and another new international free agent thrown into the free agency pool. That's really exciting and fun. So we'll talk about that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every day. So we talked about Ha-Seong Kim. Now let's talk about Hyeseong Kim. Kim is a 26-year-old infielder that has played second base, shortstop, and even a little bit of corner outfield for in the KBO, as I said, for the Kaiwoom Heroes. The Heroes, I remember for having a really good mascot. Remember when we were all really, really into the KBO when in 2020, because they were the only baseball league in the world that was playing games during COVID. And so everybody like picked a team and whatnot. I picked the Twins. I was not a Heroes fan, but it's just really cool to see those players like slowly either trickle over to the major leagues in general, or like players that went to the KBO for a year to kind of get their career back on track, like Eric Fetty, and then come back. Like it's just it's really cool. It's really cool. It's a great league, really exciting, awesome stuff. So he is one of the premier players in this league. At 25 years old in the 2024 season, he hit 326 with a 383 on base percentage and a 458 slug. Now, obviously, that 841 OPS, I think that's probably way higher than what we would expect out of him, especially in year one of coming over to Major League Baseball. I think you're probably talking about a similar offensive production as Ha-Seong Kim, to be completely honest with you. Their numbers are rather similar in terms of average and OBP. Now, Hyeseong Kim, who is currently being posted and is currently playing in the KBO. I want to make sure I'm clear on which one's which here, as their names are obviously very similar. He has pretty considerably less power numbers in the KBO than Ha-Seong Kim did. So that is something to keep in mind for, Ha-Seong Kim is not a big power threat, as we just spent 2 segments talking about anyway. So I don't expect him to really translate a ton of power over to the majors, but if he has a good eye, good bat to ball skills, and can put the ball in play and hit, 260, 270, I think that will be a pretty solid Major League Baseball player. And the reason why is, yet again, because he steals a lot of bases and he plays really good defense. It's a very similar profile, which is what makes it so interesting, because Ha-Seong Kim's going to have a pretty, the injury may, as we talked about, kind of throw a wrench in what his market value is, but I expect him to have a pretty decent market and have a pretty decent handful of teams that are all interested in him. Hyeseong Kim is interesting because it's a similar profile, but it's just an unproven in the major leagues profile. And so it's, okay, maybe Ha-Seong Kim gets out of our price range. Let's go and see how much Hyeseong Kim is going to be worth. So we'll see. 30 stolen bases this year, 25 the year before, 34 the year before that, 46 stolen bases in 2021. Similar offensive numbers each of those years, with the last 2 being his big step up, which is why he is now being posted. It'll be, I'm really excited for this market. Players in the KBO, I believe, have 30 days to sign. So he'll have from today, Thursday the 5th, until a few days after the new year to sign a contract. This also, he is an unrestricted free agent. This is not a Sasaki situation where he's technically a minor leaguer and everybody's going to offer him, the international free agent pool money. No, this is like Yamamoto. He's just straight up an unrestricted free agent, can sign for any amount of money. There's been a couple of projections on his market. The 2 that I've seen are around 24 to 25 mil for either 3 or 4 years. That's pretty cheap. And for an unproven guy with not a lot of power, that kind of makes sense to me. But if he can steal bases, play really good defense at second base or third base or even shortstop, depending on how comfortable he is coming over here, and you get those decent offensive numbers, I mean, he'll probably be worth that. And at 26 years old, he's pretty young. And that also makes him one of the younger free agents in the market, right? We talk all the time about how most free agents in Major League Baseball are around 30, just because it takes 6 years to be an unrestricted free agent. So I think there will be a decent market for him. And it wouldn't shock me if the Tigers kicked the tires on Hye-Seong Kim. And you know, this isn't like they need to go get him. I'm not, planting my flag of nobody else matters. This is the free agent acquisition. At the end of the day, it's still an unproven Major League Baseball player, but I think that there will be a decent market for him, and with the defense and the versatility that comes with it, I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out, especially during winter meetings. Okay, only other thing I got for you is Ryan Vilade signed a minor league deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. Just a thank you to Ryan Vilade. He put together some pretty decent at-bats for the Tigers. He was a good depth piece. Obviously, the final numbers don't look very pretty because his second time he came up, he didn't really do that well. But I remember that game in Cleveland when he first came up and put together some good ABs. Was a really good hitter down in Toledo this year, helped them have a pretty good season. I have a lot of respect and appreciation for Vilade. He'll be 26 this upcoming year with his beautiful, long, flowing hair. And yeah, I'm hoping that that he can make the 40-man roster for the St. Louis Cardinals at some point, maybe find his way back into the major league. So shout out Ryan Vilade, will not be back in the Tigers organization. I always hate to see people that I like join the Cardinals organization because I despise the St. Louis Cardinals. So that's something that I, should probably get over now that, I don't know, 2006 was almost 20 years ago and I'm a full, grown adult, grown man at this point. But I probably won't. I'll probably be very childish and stubborn about my hatred for the Cardinals forever. And so, yeah, hopefully he can, prove himself and get out of that organization as soon as possible. Obviously kidding. It's one of the premier organizations in the sport. We'll be back tomorrow talking about winter meetings, previewing everything about what is supposed to be the most exciting week of the baseball offseason, but the last few years has not been. So we'll see what happens, but we'll preview it all tomorrow. Let me know what you think about both of the Kims here. I think that's it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. Spotify Wrapped is out, and there's a lot of people that are, tweeting or posting their screenshots of, the Locked On Tigers on their Spotify Wrapped. And it brings a smile to my face. I appreciate you all greatly for the continued support of this show following our beloved, stupid, frustrating, amazing, beautiful baseball team. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.